Good day to you, my sunshine fam. Yes, you can see my demeanor is a lot less hostile since my last 3 videos of what's been going on here in the Twin Cities. I'm going to shift the focus just a little bit. I will be talking slightly about ICE, but I'm turning the tables, and I think we all need to do this. Well, it seems in a couple of the videos I've seen in the last day or two, I have been cutting back a lot on watching the news and keeping up with what's been going on. I know I said in my video where I was talking about my arm that I was going to try to do that. You know, it's funny that we all get sucked into that, you know. Big news story comes out and you have to know every single detail, every single day, every single minute about what's going on. But if we just all, not just the Twin Cities, but the world, step back and just take a collective breath and calm the freak down. I'm not saying don't go out and protest. That is your Fourth Amendment or First Amendment rights. It doesn't appear that these protests have been getting out of hand, save Sunday night. But that was provoked, or Sunday during the day. That one was provoked, and I did mention that in my last video, so I will not repeat that. Now I know that some of what I'm going to tell you today, you guys have heard ad nauseum in the news media, because it's all over the news. Mostly about Trump and what he's been doing, not necessarily about ICE, but all of his other ventures that he's getting into, like taking over Greenland and, you know, accepting the Nobel Peace Prize from the woman that won it from Venezuela. And now he's trying to go after Norway, which they're, I guess, the people that put out the Nobel Prize. So he's acting like a little infant. Oh, I didn't get my Peace Prize, so I'm going to go after Norway because they should have given me my Peace Prize for shutting down 8 wars. Again, do your research. He may have temporarily stopped the fighting, and I did look this up. But those wars he claims to have stopped are still having skirmishes. So no, he did not end 8 wars. And for him to say that he should get people should get the Nobel Peace Prize for every time they stop a war. Whatever. I do want to point out, I've been watching a lot of these clips on Facebook from Jon Stewart. And the one that had me laughing really hard, other than the fact that he called Trump a temporary leprechaun, which I thought was hysterically funny. Yes, it is. Yeah, you got to go find it. It might be on YouTube for those of you that don't have Facebook, John. But this one, he's talking about why do we need to go after Greenland? So then he plays a clip of Trump talking about it. And Trump is like, well, if we don't take Greenland, then Russia or China is going to take over Greenland, and we don't want to be neighbors with Russia and China. And then it cuts back to Jon Stewart with a map over his head that shows Alaska. Literally, probably you can see Russia from their western shores. And then he points out to where Greenland is. And Greenland is further away from America than Alaska is. So aside from the fact that we all know that Trump is incompetent, does he not know geography? Does he not think that Alaska is part of the U.S. just because it's not connected? And if that's the case, then Hawaii must not be part of America either, because they're not connected to any land. They're their own islands. Think about that. Okay. So something else I want to point out. I got sucked into a debate. I was watching the videos of other people and going into the comments on those videos. I may have mentioned that in my last video, but I did not mention this because this happened yesterday. After I made the video, after I made my last video. I don't think I made it yesterday. I think I made it 2 days ago. I got into a debate. Somebody had pointed out about we have not learned from the George Floyd riots. My comment back to that person that wrote that was that what the media was telling people, the country, the world, at the beginning of the riots, was that it was all people in the Twin Cities and people in Minnesota that were causing those riots. Now, I did mention in one of my videos that that was simply not true, that it was people from Colorado. So I did mention that in my comment. Then all of a sudden, this one person by the name of @crazy52 posts 2 words back to me. Prove it. So I thought, well, I could concede to you and give you my sources, or you can get up off of your lazy butt and do the work yourself and prove me wrong. So that's what I posted. I said, it's not my job to do that. If you want to know if I'm telling the truth, why don't you prove me wrong and you do the research? I said, I've done extensive research on this, and this person just kept going back and forth, and I just kept getting sucked into this. And after about 7 or 8 comments back and forth between me and this crazy 52 person, I thought to myself, why am I getting involved with somebody who doesn't know me? I don't know anything about them except their name. I'm like, I'm getting sucked into this conversation. And the video itself had nothing to do with George Floyd, just that comment. So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to be the bigger person. So what I did is I deleted all my comments, so anybody who saw the comments after that just thought that that person was talking to themselves, because my comments I took off. And I basically ended it by saying, yes, I started this with my original comment about George Floyd, but now I'm going to end it. I said, I have a life to live and I suggest you do the same. So then I hadn't heard anything back from this person for a while. And then, a couple hours later, the person commented back to me. I thought, you know what? Let them talk to themselves. Sometimes, just like Kenny Rogers saying, you got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You got to have the intelligence to know when to walk away from a discussion. You don't always have to be the one with the last word. When things start getting out of hand, simply get up and walk away. And that's what I did. One of the comments that this person posted, this crazy 52, was basically telling me and all these other people out there how crazy we were. And I thought I could let that comment go, or I could hit back. So I hit back and I said, I'm not the one with the word crazy in my name. Just left it at that. I could hear all the other people that were reading that comment going, whoa, she hit her back. Or him, I don't know who Crazy 52 is. But what I decided to do was do a little bit of research on this person. See if they really had a YouTube channel. And yeah, in order to comment, you do have to sign up for YouTube. You don't have to have content on your channel. You just have to sign up for YouTube so that you can comment on other people's videos. So I clicked on that person's name, and it came up crazy, and then the second word looked like it was in Russian, although they did speak fluent English. And I thought, that's kind of weird. And then I looked at their videos. They have one video on their channel that was put up 4 years ago that only had 6 views on it. Now, when I told Sea Dog about this conversation, he thought maybe I was talking to a bot Now, I don't know much about bots. I don't, apparently it's computer generated, but this person was, or this Crazy 52, at Crazy 52. And maybe a bot can do this, but it was being specific on what they were saying to me. It could be part of this AI, which I don't really agree with AI, because if you think about the words AI, for those of you that don't use your brains and don't do your research about it, it means artificial intelligence. So it's not real. And yet everybody's raving about AI, AI, AI. It's not real, people. So anyway, I did find one video of 2 ICE agents here in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, and it was being filmed by the passenger of a vehicle. And I don't know if the person filming it was male or female, because they didn't talk and they didn't put the camera on their face. They were filming the ICE agents that were surrounding this car that just happened to be parked. Apparently the ICE agents thought these people were following them, and they were demanding that the driver, who happened to be a female Marine Corps veteran, because she stated that, were following them. So this girl wasn't fighting them, but she wasn't getting out of the car. So of course, as ICE does, they can't think of the word. I'm starting to think I'm getting dementia now. They violently reached into her car, pulled the door handle open. Okay, first of all, the window is down. So I know some door locks are inside, but if you unlock the door, you can open the door from the outside. Why do you need to open it from the inside? Just a question for you ICE agents. So they open the door. 2 men physically grab and drag this woman violently out of her car. As they're trying to do that, she says, I'm a Marine Corps vet. And the ICE agent says, I don't care what you are. And they drag her to the ground. Maybe you've seen this video. I just saw it. I don't know when this happened, because it was one of those short clips that you see on Facebook. So it doesn't really say the dates unless they put the dates on there, and I didn't notice that. And so later on in the evening, Status Coup, who is another YouTuber, they are associated, I believe, with that Midas Touch, which I told you about before. We're interviewing her after she got out of detainment at the Whipple building in Roseville, Minnesota. I think it's in St. Paul, but some people are saying it's Minneapolis. I've heard of it. I've never been there. You'd think growing up here and living here most of my life, I would know where these cities are. I don't know the cities closer to downtown. I know names of cities. I thought Chaska was north, but apparently it's south. I just know my little corner of the world, I know the western suburbs. That's about it. So anyway, they were interviewing her. And she was telling them exactly what happened to her. And that was backed up by the video. Now here's the thing. Once the guy got her out of the car, he grabs his taser, points it at the passenger, who also has ICE agents on her side of the vehicle, or hers or his, I don't know, the passenger side of the vehicle, trying to get this person out of the car. This ICE agent had just pulled this person's friend out of the car, the military person, points the taser at the passenger and says, "Don't effing move or I'll tase you. Get out of the car." You can't do both. So are you going to risk moving and getting tased because that was the first order? Or are you going to get tased if you don't get out of the car? So I sent that video to somebody high up in government. I'm not going to say who. Told Sea Dog this. He thinks that I'm putting my life in danger. This person I sent it to likely will never see it because I sent it through Messenger, Facebook Messenger. And I know it's this person because this person has a blue check mark next to their name. I highly doubt this person is even going to see it. They've got too many other things going on in their lives. So with that, let's get into the meat and potatoes, shall we? So I've been doing a lot of research. That seems to be the theme of all my videos, right? I should just label all my videos. Research part 1, research part 2. Okay, so I thought, let's turn it away from ICE for a while. And let's take a look at these people that are spewing lies, thinking they know what's going on here. And I called a few of them out on my last video to get over here in Minnesota and walk our streets and see what's really going on instead of all these reports that you're getting and these small clips that you're seeing on the news, because they can't put out the whole videos, especially if they're like an hour long. Thank you, Status Quo. So let's start with the person who I consider is the top person. Her name is Kristi Noem. I know you all know about her because she's the biggest hypocrite of them all. She is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. So let's find out a little bit about her. And this is all public knowledge, by the way. This isn't me going on the dark web. I don't know anything about that. She was born in Watertown, South Dakota, a dinky little town, not very far from the South Dakota-Minnesota border. She is 54 years old. She's married to a man by the name of Brian Noem. They got married in 1992. They have 3 children, Cassidy, Kennedy, and Booker. Again, this is all public knowledge, so it's not like I'm putting stuff out there. And one thing I want to point out before I get any further into this, one video I saw, a news reporter was interviewing her and used the name of Jonathan Ross. Now, this may have been early on in the story of Renee Good. And Kristi Noem was like, oh my gosh, well, don't use his name. At that point, his name was all over the news. So it's not like some Secret Service classified information. Everybody knew the dude's name, okay? So don't sit there and act like, oh my God, you just said his name, now his family's going to be in even more danger. He moved out of his house 2 days after the shooting. Maybe even sooner. That's when the neighbors, according to KSTP News, our local news station, went and interviewed the neighbors, and the neighbors didn't even know that he worked for ICE. And one of the neighbors, who lives like a few doors down from him, said that she saw 3 trucks. I said 3 men, but I got that wrong, so let me correct that. She saw 3 trucks show up, and people were quickly taking boxes out of his house and drove away. Right now, Jonathan Ross and his family are currently in hiding. Get to more of that story in a minute. The jobs she has held is a politician, a farmer, a writer, which I did mention in my other video, and a rancher. Her education, South Dakota State University, 2011, Northern State University from 90 to 92, Mount Merrill, I think, Mount Marty University, maybe? I can't read my own writing. Doesn't give dates on that one. And then I think I did put on here about where she went to school. No, that was in my last video, that's right, where I said that she was crowned the Snow Queen from the high school. She was a governor of South Dakota from 2019 to 2025. She was a representative from 2011 to 2019. And she was a South Dakota State representative from 07 to 11. Now let's get into her stellar background. She didn't report an $80,000 income from a dark money group on paid, I don't know why I put it like this, but on paid to personal, which was, okay, sorry. I was writing this out very quickly, so when I write it and then I read it, it doesn't make sense. So let me correct this. She didn't report an $80,000 income on federal papers from a dark money group that paid the money to a personal company that she established in Delaware in 2023. Her daughter's real estate appraiser license was denied. And I may have mentioned that. I don't know if I mentioned. I've talked to so many different people about this, so I don't know if I've mentioned some of these in a previous recording, previous video, so please forgive me if I'm repeating this information. She was engaged in misconduct when she sat in on a meeting with her daughter and state officials, ending with them giving the daughter a second chance. Now, in order to have a real estate appraiser's license, don't you have to be an adult? So why would this girl need mommy to sit in on a meeting to make sure that she can reapply for this license? Why doesn't she just do it herself? She used state-owned airplanes for political and family travel. Now, a lot of this, yes, it is ethical. Didn't put her in jail, but a lot of it is very, very questionable, don't you think? She spent in upwards of $650,000 on a state credit card, exceeding her predecessors. She made high-profile accusations against the Indians and the FBI, or tribes, Indian tribes and the FBI. She has Norwegian ancestors, including Ephraim Wilson, who fought in the Revolution. A lot of this is coming back to my mind, so I'm thinking I may have put this in my last video. And let's talk about that. Trump wanted to go after all these illegal immigrants, right? That are here. And of course, all these people are sitting there saying, oh, they've committed violent crimes and they need to be off of our streets. Well, I have made a lot of comments on some of these videos where people have made really good points about what these reporters and YouTubers are saying. They will have us believe, Washington, D.C. will have us believing that only illegal immigrants are creating these heinous, violent crimes. First of all, none of us would be in this country had our ancestors from other countries, immigrants, hadn't come over here from their countries. Again, I'm making very valid and good points. And that doesn't require any research. Look at your own family trees. Where did your ancestors come from? The other thing is, going back to this violent crimes thing, let's ask the question. Who shot and killed Charlie Kirk? Was it illegal immigrants? Who was responsible for the largest mass shooting this country has ever seen in Las Vegas a few years ago? This man did that single-handedly from an upper floor of a hotel, and he wasn't planning actually to do it there. When I looked at my, when I did my research on that, he was actually scoping out the Blues Festival in Chicago earlier that summer, and he was actually going to carry it out in Chicago, but he found that he didn't have a good site to do that. I'm trying to think of the hotel. I keep thinking the Mirage, but that's not it. Mandalay Bay. The Mandalay Bay. Was that person an immigrant? Look at all the school shootings that we've had. Sandy Hook, Columbine, Parkland. I would say Virginia Tech, but that wasn't done by... I mean, he probably was an American citizen, but he looked to be Korean. So that's why I'm not adding him to that. But a lot of these school shootings and a lot of these mass shootings, were they done by illegal immigrants? Let's go one even further. Who shot Trump? Was that man an illegal immigrant? I'm sorry, but is murder considered a lesser crime than rape or robbery or being in this country illegally? Okay, so now let's get to another person whose name you probably don't hear as much on the news. Her name is Tricia McLaughlin. She is the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at DHS, and she is under Kristi Noem. There's no personal information that I found about her, but there are two people by the name of Tricia McLaughlin. One is for this person, and one is for an artist in New York. She made false and misleading statements regarding viral immigration videos and cases. She previously was fired from a campaign over alleged signature fraud, questioning professional conduct and credibility. She has misrepresented videos of police encounters, ICE detentions, and falsely claiming involvement of convicted criminals. Gee, I wonder where Kristi Noem's getting her information from. Now let's go to Carolyn Leavitt, who is the press secretary. Now, her personal information, some of you might just laugh it off and go, well, that's not that big of a deal. A lot of us would think this is kind of disgusting. She was born in New Hampshire. She's 28 years old, so of course she thinks she knows it all. Again, I really wonder if she's done the research on the papers that she's reading from at these press conferences. Wonder if she'd still be loyal to President Trump if she would look into his background. Wonder how much he's paying her to keep quiet about that. Her education was St. Anselm College from 2015 to 2019. Doesn't say what she studied. Now, my original research showed that she was engaged to a man named Nicholas Ricklow, who is a real estate developer. But apparently, when I pointed that out in a comment on a video, somebody actually called me out and said, aren't they married by now? So I thought, let me look into this and see if this person is right. And sure enough, the person was right. So I wrote back to them and I said, I guess you're right. The earlier information I had didn't mention she was married. It just said she was engaged. So thank you for pointing that out. I was very kind to that person. So she did get married in January of 2025, just days before the inauguration. She has one child who's a boy, and she's pregnant with their second child who's a girl, and she's due in May. Maybe that explains why she's so temperamental. Nicholas Ricklow is 60 years old. She's 28. To me, that's disgusting. And then I put that they got engaged in 2023. But they got married in 2025. In 2022, I'm just going to read it the way I wrote it. Campaign accepted donations higher than the legal limit a single donor can contribute. The campaign still owes in excess of $325,000 to creditors and donors to this day. And how is she trying to get the money? She's asking for donations to pay back old campaign debts. Does that sound like a smart thing to do? Ask the American public for more money so that she can pay them back? Or am I not understanding that right? I don't know. She sounds very questionable. Now let's look at the higher level. J.D. Vance, who happens to be our vice president. He's also very cocky when it comes to stuff like this. He's very loyal. You know, I used to say that Donald Trump was Nikolai Carpathia from Left Behind. I still feel that way. and that Elon Musk played the role of Leon Fortunato, who happened to be in the book series, fictitious book series, but based on the Bible. Leon Fortunato was the character in Left Behind that was Nikolai Carpathia's right-hand man. Now I'm starting to think that J.D. Vance is, because Elon Musk isn't in the picture anymore. He put in his time and now he's off doing other things. And you don't really hear much about Elon Musk anymore. J.D. Vance was born in Middletown, Ohio. He is 41. He's married to Usha Vance. They got married in 2014. His education was Yale Law in 2013, Ohio State in 2009, and Middletown High. Didn't give a date on that one. His children are Ewan, or I don't know how you pronounce it, Ewan, Vivek, and Maribel. Again, all public knowledge, so it's not like I'm putting stuff out there that you can't find anyway. He previously was a never Trump conservative, and he actually called Trump America's Hitler. He spread false claims that Haitian immigrants in Ohio were eating the pets. Think back to Trump's only debate with Kamala Harris and what he said. The immigrants are eating the dogs, they're eating the pets, they're going in and stealing them from their backyards and eating the pets. Now we know where he got his information from. And that was Haitian immigrants, so J.D. Vance claimed. He stated the people without children should have less voting power. He had inconsistent issues regarding abortion. His first non-incumbent VP nominee, or he was the first non-incumbent VP nominee since 1980 to have a net negative favorable rating. Fact checkers state there were false and misleading statements regarding job creation numbers, 2020 election, and the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. So for those of you out there that are insisting, like Crazy 52, on me citing my sources, all I did was go to Google and I typed in criminal background on these particular people, and the AI overview came up with this information. So it's not like I'm pulling this stuff out of the air. So there's my site, Crazy 52. There's my sources. If Crazy 52 does actually watch this video, which I'm not even going to post it in there because I don't want this person knowing who I am. If it's even a person, like, now I'm even questioning if it was a person with what Sea-Dog told me. Could have been a bot just to get my blood boiling, which it was, and then I stepped back and I'm like, why am I even having this conversation? But if that person is a real person, if that name is a real person, why don't you put out videos and explain your side of the story? Why don't you explain why you appear to be a pro-Trump supporter? What do you think that Trump is doing that is so fantastic? He can't even keep his mind on a meeting with oil executives without having to turn around and look at his precious little ballroom. And that's another thing that has been coming up in a lot of these videos that I'm watching. From the governor of California, I think it was. I don't remember who he was. I think he was the governor of California or Florida. I don't remember, but he's a governor somewhere. And a lot of these news people and even late show talk hosts or late night talk show hosts, I do tend to fumble my words. I did notice that in my last video where I said the ICE agents were pushing ice out of their snow, or snow out of their vehicles. That's what I said. I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. I later said they were trying, that there was no videos of them showing them pushing their car out of the snow. I misspoke. We all do it. So don't sit there and say, oh, she didn't say it right. Tell me how many times a day you guys fumble your words. Nobody's perfect. But anyway, these people are all saying that Trump is denying or meddling, noodling the thought, again, I misspeak, noodling the thought of running in 2028. And this governor said, and this could, I think this was actually from last year because they didn't mention anything about Renee Good. He was just talking about Trump and this 2028 campaign. He said he has been getting dozens of hats mailed to him, these red hats that say Trump 2028, from Trump's campaign people. This is a governor saying this on camera. He said, do you honestly think that this guy is spending that kind of money on a ballroom in a house that he lives in, and then he's just going to go ahead after 3 years and leave the house? He made a very good point. And a lot of people are saying that. Journalists are saying that. Late night talk show hosts are saying that. That is becoming the big thing. Now, speaking about ICE a little bit, and again, I may be repeating myself. I don't know. Like I said, I've been talking to a lot of people about a lot of this stuff. So I don't know if I've put it on camera or if it's just me remembering me telling other people. I want to point out this claim from Kristi Noem originally, that the day of the shooting of Renee Good, the ICE agent, who we now know is Jonathan Ross, went to the hospital and they found that he had internal bleeding, but he was released the same day. Well, I researched that a little bit further, and our local news, KSTP, it's Channel 5 here in the Twin Cities, KSTP.com, mentioned that after the shooting, he was transported to the federal building. They don't mention he was transported to the hospital. And ask yourself this, those of you that are keeping a close tab on the news and all these videos that are being put out about this internal bleeding that he suffered. Have you heard one medical professional come forward and say that they treated him and that they said he had internal bleeding? Or did you hear it from Kristi Noem's mouth at the DHS? I can see John going, did I hear it from a medical professional? Actually, I can see a lot of you doing this. Did I hear it from a medical professional? Was a medical professional putting out that statement, or was it DHS? If KSTP is correct, our local news, who's on the ground in amongst the people, then they didn't say he got transported to the hospital. They said that he got transported to the federal building. Now, we don't know a lot about what goes on inside these that federal building, which is the Whipple building, except from the people that have been detained illegally and later let go. Oh, and that brings me back to the point of the Marine. I'll get back to that in a second. I tend to start telling a story and then I go off and then I forget to finish the rest of the story. I noticed that in my last video too. Sorry about that. But does the Whipple building, the federal building that ICE is based out of, do they have medical doctors in there? According to what these detainees that are being released are telling people like Status Quo on camera, on the grounds of the Whipple building, they are getting very little food and water in there. They are being stretched to the limit. They have so many people in that building that they don't have any room left. I had somebody from my past that I had been talking to that told me that, or she didn't tell me, she posted it on her Facebook page. Why are they transferring people to Brainerd or Bemidji or something out of the cities? They're like, she's like, aren't they supposed to be detaining them in the cities? And I commented on that and I said, the Whipple building is so full of detainees, they don't have any more room, so maybe they have to send them there. Well, then yesterday I saw a news story, again through KSTP, I trust them. I know we do have other news people here. WCCO is one of them. KMSP, which is Channel 9, and KARE 11, KARE 11. Those are our 4 main local news stations here. So forget about CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, CBS. Go to our local stations and read what they're reporting that they're seeing here. Now, granted, some of these other, major national news sources are here too, but they're not seeing everything. They're only saying like this much. So anyway, these people are being abused. They're not getting medical treatment in there. They're being kicked and shoved to the ground and all this stuff, which is exactly what this Marine that got pulled out of her car that I was telling you about earlier, that's what she said happened to her. She said after those ICE agents pulled her out of the car and shoved her face into the ground outside her car, they put the handcuffs on her so tight that it took 6 ICE agents to get the handcuffs off of her hands. And I sent that video along with my last video to this higher up in government, which I said likely we'll never see it, but it's worth a shot. And yet the government will have you believe that the people that are people on the street, with the exception of a few, like what happened on Sunday, I'll get to that in a second, I know I mentioned that, there's been a few instances that, yeah, it has gotten out of hand. But for the most part, the only thing that I'm seeing on the street is protesters are not attacking the ICE agents other than with their words, throwing rocks at their mediocrities. Use your words. Sorry to quote Hamilton, but it is fitting. Now, getting back to what happened on Sunday. There was a church service going on in St. Paul, downtown St. Paul. I think it's called the City's Church. I think that's what the name of it is. These people were just in church, worshiping God, not doing anything. They weren't causing a ruckus. And somehow people on the street heard that the pastor of that church, or one of the pastors of the church, was an ICE agent. As I said in my last video, before these 3,000 ICE agents came here, and the threat of another 1,500 U.S. National Guardsmen are coming, I haven't read anything about them being here. They're coming out of Alaska is what I've read. Before these ICE agents came, every state, every major city has an ICE department. So before Trump got on this whole immigration thing and started sending all these people to these towns, Chicago, West Texas, Arizona, California, everywhere. I mean, they're in every state. We just happen to be the example because he seems to think that all the Somalians live here and that all of the Somalians are bad people just because of one fraud instance. We had ICE people here. So maybe this pastor was part of our ICE people and has nothing to do with what's going on out there. But since the tension here is so freaking high, especially in downtown Minneapolis and St. Paul, and yes, ICE is coming to the outer suburbs. I've been hearing about them in the town that Sea Dog and Silver Star live in. I've been hearing about them going into apartment buildings illegally without a judicial warrant in the town that Durfee Wolf lives in. I have heard of ICE being out in the town that I live in. But because I am still laid up and it's been freaking cold out, I don't get out of my apartment much, so I haven't seen it. Doesn't mean it's not out there. But anyway, back to this story. A group of angry protesters during this church service storms into the church service and starts chanting about ICE, get out, ICE out, ICE out, Renee good, Renee good. They start going up the center aisle of the church where these people are protesting. And the pastor that was in the pulpit that day wasn't even the guy that is part of ICE. Churches have more than one pastor. But the pastor that was preaching that day wasn't the guy that they were after. So this pastor gets up. He's not advancing towards them, really. He kind of steps to the side of the pulpit where he was preaching. And he points his hand up and he says, please leave, get out. This is a church service. You don't belong here. And as people are bringing their cameras out, I don't know if it was somebody from the mob or somebody in the congregation was filming, as the protesters are screaming at the top of their lungs in this church. Not a smart thing to do. I don't think God would approve of that. You see a woman in the front row in the congregation facing towards them as they're in the aisle with her hand up and her head bowed, and she's praying for those people. The congregation did not engage them. They prayed for them. So it didn't become a major fight. No, they should not have gone into a church service. And I even posted my comment about that on that video too. I'm like, even Jesus drove out the money changers from his Father's house. That's not the place you want to do it. Let your voices be heard, but not during a church service. And I said to any of you that were in the church that are seeing this comment, you need to go home, get on your knees, and ask for God's forgiveness for what you did. That is not who we are. But some of these people, some of these protesters are taking it to beyond the measure like this. And they're giving us a bad name. Just like with the George Floyd and that argument I had back and forth between that person. And I wrote to that person, and I think I left that comment up. And I said, I do not see, it's been 2 weeks now, almost about 2 weeks, since Renee Good was killed. I said, I do not see one building being burned. I don't see the protesters brandishing weapons like these ICE agents are, marching along our streets, holding on to their guns out front of them, acting like they're at war. But thankfully, things are turning in our favor. Because now, the Justice Department has put out an order that so far, and I think I put this in my last video, and it's still this way, because I haven't read anything about it being changing. The ICE agents are complying with this order that they are not allowed to pull people out of their cars that is not the person they're after. They are not allowed to grab people that are in a peaceful protest. They are not allowed to use flashbangs, pepper balls, or CS gas canisters on the crowds of peaceful protesters. So far that has been followed by the ICE agents. Whether they continue that or not, I don't know. Because if you look at Chicago, the same order came down from that. And after that was put out, I don't know how long, because I haven't really been doing a lot of looking into what happened in Chicago. They only sent 500 agents to Chicago from what I've read. Could be wrong on that too. That may have been early and they may have sent more. I don't know. But what I've seen, it was 500 agents, not 3,000. We are a quiet town, trust me. Unless we're provoked. We're gonna stand up for our neighbors. And a lot of these people are not who they're after anyway. Like, for instance, I saw a video late last night that happened, I believe yesterday, that a friend of mine sent to me, that this happened in St. Paul. And there was a Hmong man living in this house in a quiet neighborhood, and ICE broke down his door. They had circled his house like 5 times, according to this video. I don't remember who put it out. I don't think it was KSTP, but it sounded like it was a news, maybe it was KMSP, Channel 9. I think it was KMSP that put this story out. Local news. And they broke down this guy's door, claiming that he was living with 2 illegal immigrants that were sex offenders. Those people didn't live in that house. These ICE agents don't do their research before they go pounding on people's doors and illegally entering a house. This poor gentleman, an elderly gentleman, was dragged out of his house. Now let's keep in mind the temperature at the time was 7 degrees above zero. They did not allow him to get on clothes. He came out in flip-flops and shorts, and I guess, I don't know if they put the blanket over him or he put the blanket over himself. They had it over his face, thankfully, so they didn't show his face or anything. But they illegally detained him, and there was nobody else in the house but him. They weren't after him. And like I said, know your rights. If they come knocking on your door and they don't have a signed judicial warrant, which most of the time, if not all the time, at least out of the reports I'm hearing, ICE shows up without those warrants, and then they have to go and get them. Maybe ICE should be a little bit more smart than that. Maybe they should show up with the warrants. Not that I condone that they do that, but they didn't do their research. They thought that these 2 sex offenders lived in this house and that this guy was harboring them. So they dragged him out in handcuffs, later let him go, and then rearrested him later on. Like, I think that I heard him say 2 more times in the same day. Even the mayor of St. Paul was livid when she read this. She said, obviously the ICE agents didn't look into who lived in that house. They circled the house 5 times before they broke down the door, and then the neighbors had to go and replace the door because they broke the door to drag this poor older gentleman out in 7 degrees weather in nothing but shorts and flip-flops and a blanket over him. Christine Nolm, is that your patriots acting legally? Seriously? You still going to back your agents? And how about the fact that you're on the hot seat for lying to the Congress and lying to the American people about these immigration operations? Why are they trying to get you out of office? Because you're not telling the truth. You're not doing your research on it. This should make us all mad. So do your research. If you're out amongst the crowds, see if you can get the names of some of these ICE agents. And then instead of screaming at them that they're Nazis, get on your phone and do research on that person. You want to know what I'm hearing? Can't verify this, but what I'm hearing, a lot of these ICE agents, number one, can't even pass the written and physical exams. Number two, some of them are not, they're like Hispanics. Are they legal? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. And of course, you know, when the news media reaches out to ICE, ICE doesn't get back to them. Of course they're not going to do that. Number three, where was I going with that point? Can't pass the written exam or the... Oh, where was I going with that? I hate when this happens to me. Oh yeah, ask the ICE agents for their names and see what kind of stellar background they have. You notice that they always wear masks over their faces, and a lot of them are starting to wear sunglasses, so you can't even see any part of their face. It's not because it's cold, because they were doing that when it was 40 degrees outside. When I've seen people going out, even in the freaking cold weather like yesterday, when it was like wind chills of 25 below, when I went to physical therapy, I saw this kid come in shorts and like a spring jacket on. I'm like, why are you out in this cold weather in dressed like that? I was sitting there all bundled up because it was freezing outside. But do your research on these ICE agents. Find out how legal they are. Find out if they can read or write. Find out if they pass the written exam. They don't do the physical exam anymore because obviously they look at some of these ICE agents. They don't look like they could run down the street, and when they do, they slip on ice and fall on their ass. Those videos are hysterical. Look those up. Jimmy Kimmel had like ice capades. That was hysterical. But anyway, I am done doing my research on all of this crap. It is not my job anymore. I'm retiring from doing research on this stuff. Turn the tables. Stop yelling at these ICE agents and do your research and put that information out there for the rest of us to see. We need to know who these people are that are going in and illegally arresting legal immigrants, legal citizens of the U.S. with no criminal background. And my last point is, Kristi Noem and Donald Trump, when this whole thing first started last year, they said that all these ICE agents were being called up to get rid of all these illegal immigrants. They're going after the worst of the worst with all these criminal backgrounds, these violent criminal backgrounds that the previous administration allowed into our country. Again, I lost my train of thought. What the frig is going on with my brain? Oh my gosh. Okay, illegal immigrants that are coming into the country illegally or even legally. Where was I going with that? I was retiring from doing research. Going forward, the only research I'm going to do is on my family tree. I am slowly working on that. I'm getting information from my sister who has a lot of this information on the computer that my dad used to have, that he gave it to her. And so she's getting that information to me, and she's sending it through the mail, so it might be a few more days before I get that. Even though she lives here in the metropolitan area, not necessarily in the Twin Cities, just outside, but not too far. So once I get information about that, I'll be doing I'm still trying to work on a title for that series that I want to do, and how I want to go about doing it. Some of them will be shorter than others, I'm sure. especially since I don't have a lot of information. The further back I go, the less information I have. Excuse me, got the hiccups. But what I ask all of you to do is do your own research and put it out there, whether it be on social media or YouTube, even though Sea-Dog seems to think that YouTube is social media. I consider it more entertainment. I wouldn't call Jimmy Kimmel's show social media, even though it's on YouTube. It's entertainment. I'm not trying to be entertaining. I'm trying to be informative. And John, you're right. I shouldn't stop doing this. I was considering stopping because of this argument I got into with Crazy 52 yesterday. And maybe Sea-Dog's right. Maybe I am putting my life in danger. But like I said, this person I sent this information to is likely never going to see it anyway. I did also reach out to Midas Touch, who is part of Status Quo, who's on the ground, to have them come out to the suburbs, and I would love to talk to them about my views on everything I have found to be true. And I know some of this stuff that I'm telling you, you've been hearing it over and over from other people. Some of you are not following the news as much as most of us are. Clary. But just do your own research and get it out there. But I don't want to have to do another video like this. My brain is fried, and I'm supposed to be concentrating on getting myself better so I can get back to work. As it stands now, I'm not going to be going back to work before the first part of March. And that's a long time from now, because this is like, what, the 21st of January? And I've been out of work since December 8th. So, you know, I need to concentrate on my own health and my own life. So any research I do now is going to be for fun, and it's going to be about my family tree. So I quit. I quit on doing research about all this. I know I keep saying that I'm going to step back from it, and it just keeps getting me sucked in. I need to force myself to unplug from all this and just like listen to music or listen to movies or, you know, doing something else besides being obsessed with all this ICE stuff. Not to say that my doing that is going to make it go away, but step back and not let it bother me so much, I guess. But what I ask of all of you out there that are out in the world, especially here in the Twin Cities, please be careful and please be safe and please stay warm, because these temperatures are going to last at least another week and a half or so from what I'm seeing on KSTP. I'm promoting them, I guess. It's going to be blooming cold for a while, which is another good reason why I'm happy I'm not working right now, that I don't have to be out in these cold temperatures. Which I am in touch with one person from where I work, and she's saying that there's nothing going on at my job, but to be honest with you, I'm really hoping that by the time I get back to work, things will have settled down considerably, because if I were to go back to work next week, I'm really afraid. I'm honestly afraid. And nothing's happened to me or anybody I know, but it's happening to my fellow Minnesotans and my fellow Americans. Are we not, first and foremost, human beings? Yet ICE treats us like we are like the worst animals in the world. They wouldn't treat their own family members like this. At least I would hope not. So do with this information what you want to. Ignore it. You know, take it to heart and move on with your life. Do more research. Whatever. I would appreciate more comments on my videos other than John. I know John is the only one, seriously, the only one that has been commenting on my videos. John, if you go back to some of my more recent videos and look in the comment section, you're the only one that has been commenting. I mean, yeah, I think Silver Star did put a comment one time on a video prior to this ice stuff because she can't watch it. But I comment back to people. So if there's like 2 comments, it's John's comment and then me commenting back to him. I'm getting a few likes. I'm getting several views on it. Some of them are my own because I go back into it and apparently that counts as a view. So if I look at my videos like 5 times and it's just 15 views, that means that 10 other people watched them. And who knows, maybe every time you go into it, maybe you're going into my videos more than once and that's counting as a separate view. So if, say, John, if you're watching a video and then you go back and watch it again, that counts as 2 views. So it may not be 10 people watching it. It may be 1 person watching it a few times and I might only have like 3 people watching my videos. Who knows? I wish more people would watch them. But I'm going to shut up now since my battery is very low at this point. So it's again another hour-long video apparently, or close to it. But going forward, I'm just going to unplug, get my brain back to the being calm and collective and straight. And I'm just going to work on my own health at this point. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for allowing me to get this information out to you. And again, stay safe, stay warm, stay vigilant, and know your rights. You guys have a sunny day. Bye-bye.